Hello. This is a very, very basic tutorial that's intended to help faculty set up their Townsend Press Learning Center. This is to give you some brief tips. This is going to be the real basics, mostly for new faculty or for folks who haven't set up a Learning Center account before, but you may get something out of it even if you have an existing account. Okay, so once we've signed in, we've created an instructor account and signed in, we've been approved. We'll be taken to the screen as soon as we sign in, and there are just a couple of settings that I want you to be aware of, just so you'll know about them while you're setting up your class. The first thing we want to do is manage our account settings, and the way we do that is to click on the gear here, and these are our basic overall global settings for the whole Learning Center. You can see we have the name. You can change name, email, password. You can change play sounds. You see here the account status. This means you've been approved by both Townsend Press and Fayetteville Tech as a legitimate instructor. You can see the school. Now, the last two settings, this is where you can change some things that will affect how students will view the course or actual student participation. The first setting here has to do with student approval, and I do recommend that you set your approval to manual, and you can change it or set it here. If you set it to automatic, then anytime a student selects your name, he or she can just go right into the course and start working. I recommend that you require approval so that you can approve your students one by one, get them funneled into the correct courses themselves, and also make sure that they have access to the right, that their accounts are right, their emails are right, and you can make sure they have access to the right assignments. So I'm going to choose manual and go back to the settings page. Okay, item settings here, this has to do with shuffling questions, showing the answer explanations. I love shuffling test questions, so I always keep that box checked, the one right here. As far as the answer explanations, I generally would let my students see the explanations. At first I thought that this was going to cause a lot of students getting many 100s that they didn't deserve, but in fact it hasn't for me. It hasn't for me. Your students will be able to try the exercises as many times as they want anyway, and in fact they don't need your permission to access the exercises. They can just set up a fake account without your name on it and access the exercises anyway, so we might as well let them see the feedback while we've got our hands on them. Also, students many times will not go back to get their 100s. Either they won't have time or they just won't be inclined to go back and get a 100 on the exercises. So that's just something you should be aware of. Also, the mastery tests, they can only go through those one time, and yes, they can share answers, and if that becomes a problem, then you just deselect that box. But it is not, up until this point, it has not been a huge problem in my classes. So whether you leave that one on or off is generally up to you. Okay, now let's get a class set up, and I do recommend that you do not just dump all your students into one section, because after a year or so it'll start to get very confusing. So the way we set up some courses is to go to Manage, Classes and Assignments, and here's where you can add a class. So click Add, and I'm going to title mine 2012 FA Sample Reading. And I'm not going to copy any assignments because I want to show you how to set them up from scratch. Okay, now you can see the green flashing button, Add, 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 because the class has no assignments. Click Add, and this is where you can add a book if you don't have a book already set up, and then once the book is selected, you can choose assignments. So we're going to call this a Reading 90, so we're going to choose the right book. These are all the reading books are under here. Choose the right book, and then you have access to the exercises in the mastery test, the assignments for that book. My recommendation is to assign all, and you do that just by hovering here and clicking A to assign all of the exercises for a particular chapter. That's just the way I do it. And I also recommend that you only allow those assignments to be open, say maybe a week before you cover the chapter in class, and then the week during you cover a chapter in class, and then you must come and shut them down, because if they're due, you need to make them unavailable, or you're going to have students coming in here and doing the assignments after you want them to be due, and then they're going to have a fairly legitimate complaint that you allowed them to do. They're not getting credit for work that they actually did. So, assign all of them is the way I do it, and then when the due date has passed, I'll come in here. I will click in to deselect them and just select the next chapter. And I'll often have, say, 2 chapters worth of assignments going at any given time. Sometimes 3, but generally it'll be 2. And once we do that, once you have your assignment selected, click Save, and you'll be brought back here. You can see the name of the course here and the name of the book, and you can view scores and edit and do things like that there. The class roster, you can see, doesn't have any students. Now, since I've set mine up to manually add students, I'm going to see any students who want to be added. I'm going to see the number up here, and I have 1 waiting to be added. So I'm going to click that, and you can see that it's a student. It's a fake account that I set up. So I want to select this student and approve this student, and because I've done it manually, I have an opportunity to verify that the name is put in there correctly and that the student used their actual Fayetteville Tech student address. Generally, if the email address is incorrect, it'll be pretty obvious. For example, the student will probably leave out the student portion of the email address, or will try to use a Yahoo account or a Gmail account or something like that, and you can try to get your hands on that student and get it correct. So once we've verified that everything is right, we'll click the box and choose the class. I'm going to put them in my new class, the 2012 FA sample, and the student will be automatically loaded. I can see all my classes here, and I can choose the one I want to work on. I'm going to work on our sample class, and I've got a roster, and all my students will appear here, and I've got the assignments here. When I need to go in and grab my scores, and I do recommend grabbing the scores and putting them in Blackboard immediately as soon as the assignment is due and finished and complete. As soon as you set it, close it down, take it from Townsend Press and put it in Blackboard. And the way you access those scores is by going to Scores, and you'll see all the exercises that have scores available will be highlighted in black. Now, nobody has really done anything in this course because I just set it up, but you can see that that I do have scores available for these 2 mastery tests. Generally, it'll be much more than that. Everything will have scores because hopefully at least one of your students will have done the assigned work. Click Show Report. Oh, gotta have a pop-up here. Okay. Once your pop-up blocker is set, then Show Report, and you'll see the student and all the scores for that student's work for whatever you selected. You can also download the scores in a Microsoft Excel file. And generally what I do is I just print them out from here, I sit them beside me, and I've gotten very good at keying them into the Blackboard gradebook. And again, I do recommend doing that immediately. And these scores do open in a new window, so if you shut down that window, you'll just be taken back here. Okay, well those are the basics. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me.